This is a Star Wars Action News Hypercast.
Territory in the end, we're going to try to keep our answers a little more brief up front so we can get through everything. But yeah, let's dive into it. Jake, what have you got for us? Oh, I can't hear Jake.
Now you hear me.
There we go.
Okay, sorry. Too many mute buttons. All right, good morning. Thank you once again for this opportunity. Patrick, I always like to take you up on your word, so I'm not going to send you some hard ones this time, and I am going to send you some hard ones this time. So we'll see how we do. Question number one, Hasbro's company initiative to remove plastic from its packaging has a target date of the end of 2022. We've already seen this done with the new TVC Troop Builder 4-packs. How will this affect the TVC basic carded figures where the vintage style packaging is one of the key selling points?
No, it's a good question. Hasbro made this pledge, I think, 3 years ago. And I will just say, I think I and a lot of people within the company, most people are really proud and happy to work for a company that at a high level has that kind of vision and cares about kind of the world and things kind of beyond our walls. So I will just say that it made me excited when Hasbro said that. And obviously we're working through the details, but that kind of vision and that commitment was really exciting to see. You mentioned the Troop Builder 4-packs. We would have done that in that packaging regardless of any pledge, just because that was the way that it made sense for those Troop Builder items, since those weren't about the packaging. We are exploring those details, what it means across the line. I don't have any updates to share at this point, but we do look forward to sharing more info down the line. And certainly, as you mentioned, that end of 2022 is coming up fast, and we will certainly share something before then.
All righty, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. All righty, Arnie. And I will just say, Arnie, I don't know if I've seen your Zoom avatar before, but it's fantastic. So
thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, good morning. I'm also here to give some softball questions. So, I wanted to ask about the HasLab Rancor project. It was an incredible item, impressive, huge, great paint, and it missed the mark by such a narrow margin. And given that other HasLabs have been extended, like Unicron got a little extra time, and given that the Rancor was so close, why not give it like that extra day or two it needed to hit that goal?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, as we know, HasLab is all about those dream projects and allowing fans to decide. And, I backed it, more than once, a couple of times. I would have loved to have had a couple of Rancors in my house. And we definitely appreciate all the fans that supported that project and kind of the passion that they showed. We were excited to add that Rancor Keeper mid-campaign. We saw that as kind of the extra bit needed to hit the goal. Also, kind of HasLab's evolved, right? Like, the Unicron, I think, was the second campaign. HasLab is a pretty well-established platform at this point. People know about the time limits. So after we added the Rancor Keeper mid-campaign, that was unexpected, given the establishment of the platform at that point. Kind of, we did want to stay true to the original time period. We knew that we had 6+ weeks throughout the course of that campaign. It was announced at PulseCon. Ultimately, fans decided that this particular project in this particular configuration wasn't what they wanted to see. We've learned a lot from that campaign. We're going to apply those learnings in the future, and we're really excited for our next one, whenever that may be.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. All righty, Tim, you're up next.
Yep, thank you very much for having me on again. Okay, first question. So many collectors are wondering why the Vintage Collection Boba Fett Morak figure is a deluxe figure with a deluxe price tag. I understand there was a confusion with the price at the very beginning, but it's still, I think it's $20.99, which does make it deluxe. And when I look at figures like the Myth Roll in the main line, he's got loads of new accessories. He's fully newly tooled figure. What makes the Boba Fett a deluxe figure?
Yeah,
with that price.
Absolutely. And I would say, it's not just the name. Obviously, we had a Black Series, Nomad Boba Fett in his look from Typhon. That was a mainline release. I think it's instructive to look at kind of our Black Series and vintage lines versus our other lines. The things that make those targeted at the fan community are, certainly the complexity, the articulation, the deco, the soft goods. Certainly size is a piece. There are some figures that are deluxe in the Black Series line and could be world building sets in the Vintage Collection line because of the size. but it is also those other things, you know, and deco, I think, is a key piece here. Boba Fett in his armor is one of the most decoed pieces, you know, in the line. And I don't think we would want to simplify that. Again, that's what makes these pieces, you know, for collectors, for fans. And deco, you know, it has a cost to it. So we wouldn't have been able to do those pieces in mainline. You know, we are able to get those out at those higher SRPs. And so we wanted to get him in the line, and that was the way to do it.
Okay, cheers.
Absolutely. Yep. Dominic, what have you got for us?
Awesome. Well, good morning. Thank you, as always, for doing these. I want to build off of what Arnie was asking and talk a little bit about the Rancor. Obviously, we were all disappointed to see it, you know, miss by just that much.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had some lessons that you learned about future that you're going to apply to future Star Wars HasLab projects. Can you talk a little bit about what those lessons are and what you're hoping you can do differently when we do this again?
Yeah, I don't think I can dive into the details there, but, you know, certainly, again, you know, as I said, this particular project, this particular configuration, fans decided that they didn't want to see. And so we've been kind of diving into what those things may have been. We also know kind of there's a lot of things that might have worked about the project. And so, as we always do, you know, it's helpful conversations like these, you know, we are active online and reading comments there. And so I think we're trying to discern kind of, you know, what specifically about the project was it that made it not work, and not just assuming that, you know, anything about it could have led to that. So I think that goes into the conversations. It's not just like, well, you know, this was Black Series or this was that or that. It's trying to dive into what specifically about the project led to the reaction that we got.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, Asanio, is that how you pronounce it?
It's Ascanio. It's Ascanio, but it's good. It's good enough. Don't worry.
Right.
Thank you very much for hosting us. It's
Thank
a
you
real pleasure.
Absolutely.
So we wanted to ask you about this. We saw some very good addings to the archives lines, and nicely renewed action figures with a major quality on the shapings and sculpts. And so we were curious to ask and to know, in future, this line will have more or maybe the same importance of the already well-known Black Series that already gave us a lot of big joys?
Awesome. That's a good question. And I'll get Ascanio right by the end of the session for sure.
Thank you. No, you already got it.
There we go. We love the archive. It's definitely not kind of the Black Series. Just like in vintage, the specialty waves aren't nearly as important as our mainline waves. It's great to get those figures out for fans who didn't get them the first time. And certainly it's something we put a lot of time into, but I would say, you know, definitely without a doubt, our major focus is on the mainline Black Series.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And Victoria, ending up round one. What have you got for us?
Good morning, Patrick and Emily. Really great to be here with you. Really appreciate it. Congrats on a successful Fan First Wednesday. So question number one, the new Jabba's Palace slash Book of Boba Fett playset looks like the kind of things collectors' dreams are absolutely made of. And it looks phenomenal. And yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
If this format is successful, and I believe that it will be, will you consider adapting it to other fan favorite scenes, such as the Mos Eisley Cantina or the Death Star Throne Room?
Thanks so much. Yeah, this was a dream project to work on. And by the way, I really like your live stream. But yeah, this was a fun project for us. It's one that we're definitely going to be tuned in to watch the response that fans give this project and see if this is really a platform and a format for sale of a mid to high priced item that works out for us. And I think we're testing the waters with this. And if we see that work out, I think this could definitely open some doors for more type of world building type items like this to come, potentially as Pulse exclusives or to formats like this in the future. And, you mentioned Mos Eisley and the Death Star. I think that's definitely locations that get tossed around in brainstorming, of course, and some of the ones that we're often thinking about. Nothing can be announced, of course, but this is all open doors and fun new opportunities. So we're excited.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily.
Absolutely. Awesome. And yeah, that project, all Emily, and yeah, I love it as well. Can't wait to put my order in. Jake, back to the top.
All righty. By all appearances, the cheaper priced and less articulated and less decoed retro collection figure line has been a hit. What level of success of this subline would Hasbro need to see to be motivated enough to create a non-TVC secondary line of 3 3/4 figures, akin to the figure lines that ran in conjunction with the Vintage Collection's initial run about 10 years ago.
Thank you. So yeah, we've loved to see the response to the retro collection, and this is just a dear line for us because the Kenner world is our own company history and our legacy of toy design. So the team loves to create it. I would say that as far as jumping into an additional 3 3/4 realistically styled simpler figure at this time, I think that we don't have any current plans for it, just because splitting currently between the Kenner styled 3 3/4 figures and the highly articulated 3 3/4 figures, we wouldn't want to create too many splits and pool our tooling across too many expressions. But we are always interested to hear what the community is passionate for, and if you guys rally and tell us that there's something you're really interested in, we do love to listen to it. So keep letting us know what you want.
Perfect.
Awesome. Arnie, back to you.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Jabba's Palace diorama, and Emily, great job on that. I think that's honestly the most exciting play set of the past 30 years.
Thank you.
But it's been announced in the United States as a Pulse exclusive, but it would be available to retailers overseas. And we've seen some Pulse exclusives. I remember specifically the Marvel Retro 3 3/4 inch figure 2-packs were Pulse exclusives. They did end up at regular retail in the US. What are the chances that eventually down the line, Jabba's Palace might also end up being available at retail?
I think I can safely say 0%. So I can't comment on other brands. I think there might have been kind of different packaging executions between Pulse and other retailers. This is a Pulse exclusive in the US and Canada and UK. That's going to be the only way to get it. Outside those territories, and we mentioned yesterday, kind of in Europe, it will be a Pulse exclusive later. Outside Europe and North America, because we want to make sure that this amazing item from Emily gets to fans worldwide. So outside those Pulse territories, it will be available through other retail partners. But in the US, Canada, and Europe, only through Pulse.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. All righty, Tim, back to you.
Thanks. Okay, so many collectors were shocked to see the shipping date of the Black Series Dark Trooper. I think it's due in March or even May 23. So can you tell us why the time between ordering and shipping seems to be increasing with every pre-order? I would imagine there's still things to come at the end of this year which haven't been announced, haven't been put up for pre-order. Why are you releasing things that are so far ahead rather than things that maybe are coming out in October, for example?
Yeah, no, I can't kind of speak to it, partly just because it's complex, but just kind of when we're releasing what. I think for these items, it's two things. One, obviously, we know the world has been a crazy place the past couple of years. There are very real global logistical issues that we're working through along with every company out there. We're working to provide as much and as accurate of information as possible. We know that it's hard to know kind of when those items will come, given everything going on and how the world will look different. We wanted to make sure that we weren't kind of over promising and giving an overly optimistic point of view and then disappointing down the line. I do also know, I've read a lot from the community that they want more transparency and they want to know what is coming. I think we've moved in that direction with pipeline reveals, and certainly, I think giving visibility to product as soon as we have it and as soon as we're able, even if it's coming down the line, so we're not kind of holding that back, but we're sharing what we have to share with the community.
Yeah, okay. Because obviously, yeah, I mean, I think, doesn't a Black Series wave come up for pre-order today and people are finding it in stores and stuff? It's just, I don't know, everything just seems a bit weird about when things are coming and things like that. I just wanted to sort of ask.
Yeah, no, the world has thrown us a lot of curveballs the past few years. I don't know what, no one would think that that's the way we would want it to happen. Obviously, we want things to be as smooth as possible. And so we're dealing with those curveballs where we can.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Yep. Dominic.
So obviously, this is the most one of the most exciting times to be a Star Wars fan. We just had Book of Boba wrap up. We're all looking ahead at Kenobi coming up in just a couple of months now. But one of the things we constantly hear from fans is that they would like to see figures and merchandise from the shows that are on the shelves around the same time that the shows are on. Now, obviously, you guys are at the mercy of Lucasfilm and Disney and when you can get designs ready to go for release. But can you talk to us a little bit about maybe take us behind the scenes on the timeline of when you guys start to see things that are going to be part of new media and how that affects your design process and how that might even be different from doing stuff from the classic films?
Sure. So as far as when we get started, that can vary from content to content. It is based on when the assets come to us from Lucasfilm. I will say that when we get a batch of assets from Lucasfilm, it's like Christmas, and our whole team will sort of gather around and just like parse through it and discuss, and that's a really fun day when we get to dig through it all. But yeah, definitely. Also, when we get a batch of assets, we can't really rush at everything at once and make every toy as soon as we see every character in the show, because then we wouldn't have paced out news for the year. So we will take that batch of assets and say, okay, we want to approach these first, we're going to get to these afterward, and pace it out so that there is a full year of toy news for you guys, and without as much pauses in between. So pacing that out becomes part of our process. I would say that when it comes to original trilogy content, that's a more delicate game of balance, and part of that is because when we look at the original trilogy, for me at least, we're balancing a hero character like Luke. Obviously he's got incredible appeal, but also how many times have we done him? And then when it comes to a background character, that can be something that can fill in the gap in a collector's world, but they may not be known as well. So those are really interesting balancing games to play when we look at original trilogy, and yeah, we try to bring a little bit of it all in, and that's the most interesting dance.
All righty. Ascanio, back
Thanks.
to you.
So we were talking about the distribution, and I have a question about it. At the moment, we are surely talking about the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, but not about specifically Europe and maybe Italy. So we would like to know if there are some hopes about finding better and more effective ways for collectors to reach the products, or if there will still be the need to aim for important pieces, therefore making the whole process more expensive and difficult. So we would like to know if there will be an improvement on this point of view.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely not our goal. I've shared in the past before the pandemic, we went out to Europe every year and had a fan summit with all of our regions. And the whole point was improving things like this. Distribution's always at the top of the list. So, we were able to make some improvements kind of coming out of those conversations, have more kind of frequent conversations about getting the right product to the right places. We've continued to have those conversations virtually since the pandemic started, but yeah, I think that hope is always there, especially within Star Wars, but it's certainly never our goal to just say, this is the way it is, and that's kind of the best it's going to be. Again, our goal is to make sure that these products get to the fans that want them. That's good for the fans, it's good for Hasbro, and so we're continually working on ways to make that possible. Absolutely. Victoria, end of round 2.
All right, so fans are excited to see Hasbro's dedication to The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, as we continue to see with yesterday's reveals. With further Disney Plus content on the horizon, it seems that it may be hard to catch collectors up on some of the ones that are still trying to get Kira and her Kessel outfit, Baze Malbus, the main cast from The Rise of Skywalker, most of them, for example. Is there a plan to address some of these critical figures as time goes on?
Thank you. I would say that never say never for Star Wars. It's definitely, these are definitely things that we want to eventually come back around to. And there's always going to be a deep well of content that we can revisit, because really this content has had lasting power. 4 decades of characters that we can return to, and they're still strong today. I would say too that, as far as coming back to very specific characters, can't make any promises today, but they're not forgotten, and there's certainly potential in the future. I would say that you have quite a champion for Baze Malbus on the team with Patrick over here, and one that we keep pinging in our brainstorms. So hopes for the future for many of them.
Cool, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, kicking off round 3, and I'll just say we are going to have to speed round it a little bit so that we make sure to get to all your questions. So Jake, kick us off.
All right. Yesterday, we saw some amazing new reveals with the Boba Fett Throne Room playset, a new line of archive figures, and some great additions to the main figure lines. What can Hasbro say to the many collectors and fans out there who are excited about all these products, but are a little hesitant to pre-order or are fatigued by the amount of Hasbro pre-orders currently outstanding? For example, after today, I have almost $1,600 in pre-orders just for TVC alone, and I typically only buy one of each. And today, and I forgot about the Black Series line that Tim mentioned earlier with Omega. We have probably today about $475 more of pre-orders going live today. So how does Hasbro view that?
Yeah, no, I think there's a few different answers here, and I'll try to keep it quick. But one is that just global logistical situation we talk about, and so hopefully as the world eventually returns to normal, that'll kind of solve itself out. I think one piece is kind of that desire to give that greater transparency. And I know we've heard when we don't do pre-orders on items, the community likes to be able to kind of lock in their purchases. So I think that large number is in part because of the increase in product that we've experienced over the past few years, which again I think is something we've heard from fans. So I think in terms of the fatigue, I think the key thing here is just as the world eventually hopefully returns to normal, we should see those timelines tighten up and hopefully get that product out closer to when we reveal it.
Do we think there's a time is this Hasbro's new model that we think we've permanently adopted with the pre-order, or do you think there'll be times when figures are going to be, easily or readily found on toy runs?
So I think certainly, when we moved to pre-orders, and I'll keep this quick, we moved to pre-orders even before the pandemic, again, in response to thoughts from the community. But, with most of these items in brick and mortar, they should be available both in pre-order and then also kind of when they go on shelf.
All righty. Thank you.
Yeah. Arnie, back to you.
Jake, very brave, keeping the prices on your pre-order spreadsheet. I like to ostrich and not really know how much is going to be coming out.
It was painful. That's just the TVC. I didn't do the whole total.
And yeah, Patrick, you mentioned keeping a lot of fresh figures out there, and it is good to see a lot of releases coming out. But out of yesterday's 7 reveals, 5 of them were repaints or reissued figures in the archive line. And it seems lately the amount of repaints or minor retools really outnumber the number of newly sculpted or major retooled figures, especially when you start taking exclusives into account, which are almost entirely some sort of repaint or some sort of re-release. So, I mean, the recent Dark Trooper, the announcement of Isla Sakura, certainly a breath of fresh air in this regard. But looking forward, what is your team doing to inject new freshness into the line? And can we hope for a greater ratio of new sculpts or major retools in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think, again, we touched on this before, and someone asked if the archive would, rival Black Series. And so I think there's certainly passion there for archive and the reissues as a way to get those figures to fans who didn't get them the first time around. And I will just say, we've said this before, they are a bonus to the line. They don't take away anything from the new figures. So if they didn't exist, they wouldn't be replaced by newly tooled figures. It's just they wouldn't exist, basically. We know that repaints and retools and kit bashes, can be a great way to get new figures into the line. And again, they don't sub out for newly tooled figures. You mentioned the Dark Trooper and Isla Sakura. We're also excited about Maul and Saw. And I just will say, I think we had this question on a previous one. This live stream, isn't everything for the next few months. We have, more reveals coming in the next few weeks, few months. And so I think, as we look at the line today versus where it was a few years ago, I think there's more newness kind of across newly tooled figures and also just the breadth of characters. We're going to continue delivering those newly tooled figures while also those repaints and kit bashes that build out the line without taking away from the newly tooled figures.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Tim, back to you.
Yeah, slightly more positive question for me this time. Firstly, okay. Emily, just thank you so much for that Jabba's playset. That's when I look back at May 2020 and where the vintage collection was back then, I never thought that it could get this good. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you.
Regarding that set, it was announced that the Bib Fortuna was a deluxe carded figure. Does that mean that the deluxe is going to be the size of like the Maldo Crease Mandalorian, or is it going to be a standard size card and the deluxe factor is that it's an all newly tooled figure and it's soft goods and what have you?
Yeah, thank you for reaching out for detail on this. I will say that as far as the packaging, just to be fully transparent, this is something our team is still evaluating. The plan is for this character to be blister carded. I think our team needs to work through how big that blister is. And for me, my push would be, I would hope that it can be standard because I know that fans want to put the case around that carded figure and definitely want to bring in that fan insight. I know that when we released the Maldo Crease, some some fans were, like, what am I going to put this in, and struggled to find that casing option for that size blister. So that also did lead to why we created the alternate look for the deluxe items to go forward with in the future. And that's been kind of an evolving process for us as we build this new format of deluxe for vintage collection. But again, back to Bib Fortuna, still evaluating. We're not sure if we can keep it standard. We need to work a little bit with our packaging team in the final model.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool. Dominic.
I think I'm just going to join in on everybody saying cool things about the Palace playset, because that thing is awesome. It's really cool. And one of the parts of the live stream I really enjoyed was when you guys were talking about the just insane number of accessories that come with it. Can you talk us through some of your favorites that you included in that set?
Certainly. This is such a fun question. So we just poured attention into the detail of the accessories of this set. We actually took all of the incredible reference that we received from Lucasfilm, and we just zoomed and zoomed and zoomed and put all of that in a grid and said, okay, which accessories are we going to make? And I talked a little bit on the live stream about, some of my big favorites are, of course, the droid head on the platter. Again, it's just such a warning right out there to all droids coming up in this palace. I love, again, the coin pouch piece, because I can just see your figures, like trading it back and forth, trading hands, making deals, getting bounties. So some of that brings some really fun figure play. As well, a piece that I didn't talk about so much, it's kind of cool just as far as the detail of it, is like to the right of the throne, there's this little platter that has all this fruit in it. And I was like, is this space dates? Like, what are these little fruits in this little stand? Some of those little pieces are just so fun and detailed and little. And I think as well, if you checked out I'll just end with, if you checked out our online photography of the set with the interchangeable meats that you can put on the grill spit, you may catch a little Mandalorian Easter egg. So those were all really fun bits, and I just hope you guys dig in and discover it all.
Cool. Thank you.
Ascanio.
So yeah, we were talking about Jabba's palace and all these nice details. I wanted to ask specifically, we will see a further expansion of the mentioned room, and maybe perhaps an enlargement of the area dedicated to the Rancor's pit. We will see something more about it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We didn't actually spend a ton of time down in the Rancor pit room. We just had kind of one scene this season. But I think what's going to be impactful for us is to continue to watch and see what Lucasfilm does with these locations, and where they put the most action and where they bring the most figures together is always going to be what appeals to me for playset building. But I would say that probably there's a lot of opportunity for Tatooine in general. You've seen us return to this palace from our first release of the Jabba's Palace set, now into this new throne room set. And I think that honestly, there's a lot of opportunity in Tatooine to think about for the future.
Thanks.
Victoria.
So a lot of Black Series figures for clone troopers lately have been missing the black stripe above the helmet, giving a more of an animated look. The consensus seems to be that fans prefer the more realistic movie interpretation. Is there a reason that has been omitted on recent clone figures, and can that eventually make its way to TVC?
Thanks so much. So I had a chat with Eric about this one as the master of all, Black Series planning. And I would say that what we chatted about is that really he felt like the no stripe, referred to the animated version of a clone, and that there's just so much more frequency of those types of animated clones on screen versus the ones that came from the movies. So for him, he felt that was potentially the most widely used version of a clone. But also, that just added to the tooling library of the Black Series, and they still have the previous version to work with. And then as far as bringing that into the vintage collection, clones are definitely, one of the peak toys that we love to release all of the incredible variety of. And I think you'll see potential for clones in the future and updates where we can.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. All right, I think we have 8 minutes left for 2 rounds, so we are going to have to top line it, and that's on Emily and I. So Jake, round 4.
All right. Well, I think that's good for me, because most of my parts of my last 2 questions have kind of been addressed by the crew here. So I will end with the last question on my list here. And it's, again, Emily, fantastic job on the Boba Fett's palace. Now, This is an amazing set. It comes with a little higher price tag because of all the pieces to it. Was this at one point designed or thought to be the next vintage collection HasLab? And if not, why?
Yeah, no, it was always intended to be a pure Pulse exclusive. And I think it's kind of due to the lower price point, and accordingly, the lower resources needed. And I will just say, I think we were excited to explore this area, like between, the brick and mortar items and then kind of the dream HasLab items. We thought there was an opportunity for this other way, and, hopefully that'll be the case.
Awesome. Hopefully
Cool.
more in the future.
Yep. Arnie.
Yeah, the Jabba's Palace, as great as it is, I do know I saw some sticker shock among the collector community. And, just across the board, the cost of figures has increased, not just in the Star Wars line, but in every line. And lately, I've heard more and more people saying they're starting to feel a little priced out of being a Star Wars collector. So I was curious what your response is to those fans and what your team is doing to keep Star Wars toy collecting a hobby everyone can afford.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this quick. It's a tough question, but it's a good question. Like most other companies, we've seen those significant increases in material and freight costs. So we've had to take those actions to offset those costs and in those price increases. We're doing everything we can to continue delivering those quality products for that affordable price. And we haven't been willing to compromise on the quality of the products. We think that's the most important thing. We're still proud of that, and we're going to continue doing that. And yeah, hope for the best.
Thanks.
Great. Tim.
Okay, so what was behind the decision to release the 501st clone on a different card back when all other reissues haven't had that same treatment? Was it due to the fact that it was updated quite significantly, or was it the fact that it wasn't part of the specialty waves?
Yeah, thanks for asking this one. I think this actually came from us just seeing these clones pop up a lot more in the Clone Wars animation. So what we thought about was, the previous release was Revenge of the Sith, and maybe this is an opportunity to celebrate that we're getting a really relevant and classic troop builder back out there, but it's been in multiple contents in a way that we could celebrate.
Okay.
Absolutely. Awesome. Dominic.
Going to the Black Series archive line, you guys made a couple of cool announcements there with Lando and 3PO and Dengar and old Sheev Palpatine coming back as he so often does. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into selecting figures for the Black Series archive line? How do you weigh things like wanting to update the figure, the fan desire for that character to come back, and the time since it was first on the shelf?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of all those things. It's an art rather than a science. I think the final piece is, again, kind of when this line was launched, it was launched with the goal of getting kind of these main characters out there that hadn't been there, that fans who are newer to the hobby hadn't gotten. So I think kind of prominence for the character and appeal to a newer fan is the final piece of the puzzle. But yeah, everything you mentioned, key updates to the figure, the existing fan desire and the time are all certainly important components.
Cool, thank you.
Absolutely. Ascanio. Oh, I think you're on mute, Ascanio.
Thank you for reminding me that. So we wanted to know something more about the process, the creative process, how it starts, how you choose, for example, a play set, and mostly and specifically, which are the timings required in order to realizing one.
Thank you so much. This is a fun process, and I will share that I probably pitched actually 4 different playset locations before we landed on this final, and I'm always like, Patrick, what about this? So, but one of the things that I think about as I pick those locations is really just what were the scenes where the most impactful stories happened? Are these the moments in the areas where you just were riveted and at the edge of your seat and the action was happening? But also, was it a scene where more than 2 characters were interacting? Was there a group? Because for me, you can see I've got a dense shelf and I want a playset where I can bring lots of figures together versus just like a scene for one. So displayability, how many can I fit in the set? Also shelf fit. Actually, you'll find that the new playset is, I designed it with the depth to fit nicely on a shelf. So all of that type of display and collection and storytelling pulls into where I pick a playset location.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, Victoria.
The Lucasfilm 50th TVC Tusken Raider across the board seem to have a widespread issue of their wrists being a little too tight and breaking off when manipulated. What was the reasoning for that, and has a resolution to that been found?
Thank you for raising this. This is actually a quality concern that I hadn't heard about with our Tuscan. I would like to maybe use this question as an opportunity to say that we would really encourage fans, if you ever have a quality issue, we super regret it. And please reach out to Hasbro's quality care and consumer care, because actually there is a little bit of a trend where fans tend to talk a lot on the forums and maybe not reach out to the official care team, and they're not hearing as much as they used to for those concerns. And they really do track it, and they'll build reports of the numbers of concerns on a quality topic. So definitely reach out and let us know.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to get this last round in. Jake.
Oh, I'm caught
We can
unaware.
come back
All
to you. We can come back to you.
No, we're good. So you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but maybe you can add maybe another piece of detail. It's essentially Star Wars toys seem to come out a little later than other brands that Hasbro has. Transformers, Power Rangers, Marvel properties all have their products in store usually around the time that their media that they're based on is announced. For example, Marvel usually actually gets it out 2 to 3 months earlier, and it's in store shelves. People are aware of it. Star Wars brands toys seem to come out 12 to 18 months following the debut of new media. Now, I know you can't speak on behalf of other brand teams, but you are working at Hasbro, and so you probably have some insight about how Doctor Strange figures could be on the shelf right now before the movie comes in a few months. But Book of Boba Fett has 12 to 18 months.
Yep. I think we certainly have some figures that are out kind of with new media. I think we had the Artillery Trooper in Black Series last year, I think, or this year. Bo-Katan, I think we revealed kind of during the show. So there are certainly exceptions. We've said in the past that we see some things the same times you guys do. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way given the impact that we see. We saw Grogu, the child, in The Mandalorian the same time everyone else did, and just the feeling of that and just seeing the impact on the world was amazing. And so I think, we trust Lucasfilm, we trust Jon Favreau in terms of when we're going to get assets for The Mandalorian and other properties, and then we race as quickly as possible to get those out.
All right.
Cool. Arnie.
Real quick one. With the re-release of the 501st Trooper on the new card back, is he getting a new TVC number?
Ooh, that's a good one that I don't know off the top of my head that I'll have to follow up with my packaging team about. I'm sorry that I can't answer that one at this time.
Okay, thanks.
I believe so, given the new card back. I believe so.
That feels right.
Yeah, but we can certainly confirm.
Thanks.
Tim.
Okay. Does the creation of Hasbro Pulse in Europe and the subsequent access to that direct consumer market actively affect the opportunity for more creatures, play sets, vehicles that you can create in the future? Because from what we understand, it maybe retailers are maybe a bit nervous about stocking those items.
Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned this earlier or in a previous interview, but we will still absolutely continue to see play sets and vehicles in retail stores like the Antoc Merrick X-Wing, like the Navarro Cantina play set. We are certainly excited about the ability to expand Pulse to fans around the world someday, hopefully, but starting with the announcement about Germany. And yeah, certainly we're excited then to bring all those great items to Star Wars and fans through whatever channel works best. It certainly helps open up new possibilities, as we've seen with this item, as we saw several years ago with the launch of HasLab. So it's a better world today than it was then in terms of this specific aspect.
Okay, cheers.
Absolutely. Dominic.
So looking ahead at the rest of this year, it's looking like 2022 is going to be the year that we can finally get the convention circuit back on track after having a year or two off in there, starting with Celebration coming up in May. I'm just sort of wondering, are you guys planning on getting back out there for more conventions, and how you're going to balance that with the success you've seen with the live streams? Are the live streams going to go away? Are we just going to kind of go back to how things were? Are we going to stick with the live streams? Is there a balance in there? What are you guys looking ahead at for 2022? And maybe are we going to see you at the Celebration in May?
Yeah, I can't comment on any specific plans, but everyone on the team is so excited to get back to conventions when it's safe to do so, whenever that time might be. We love kind of interacting and chatting with folks, and we know that that's a valued way to get feedback to us. Either way, we definitely plan to continue live streams. We've loved that platform to reach a broader audience. And so those will definitely continue.
Cool. Thank you for everything this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you. Scanio.
Last but not least, are we going to see more vehicles, maybe massive ones too? And if yes, could you give us maybe just little anticipations or maybe some clues? I will give you my personal suggestions. I would love to see Naga Sadao's Meditation Sphere, for example, or a Darifan class battleship, something coming from, the golden age of the Sith, expanded universe, good old times.
Love it. So vehicles is something that they're constantly coming up in our team's brainstorms, and there definitely were some fun new vehicles revealed in the show that we were definitely excited by. We don't have any announcements that we can make currently, but we're looking for ways that are the best to bring those to market and potential future opportunities for vehicles, because it is a huge part of Star Wars.
Absolutely. Victoria, bring us home. I think we'll make it.
I'm going to make a quick change because my last question kind of got answered already. Hope that's okay. For the sail barge, Hasbro did an exchange program for the yak faces that arrived with the cards kind of damaged. Is there going to be something similar for the Razor Crest? Some of them on social media seem to be damaged. Mine included the Grogu card had a pretty bad crease in it.
We can look into that. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, but it's certainly great feedback and we'll look into it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Again, I know we had to move fast at the end, but wanted to get through all the rounds. I'll just say sincere thank you. We love doing this. Thank you guys for taking the time. I know it's time out of your day, and we look forward to doing it again sometime soon.
Thank you for your passion.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please check out some of our other videos, and you can hear hundreds of Star Wars collecting podcasts and see photo galleries at our site, swactionnews.com.